Good morning, traders. Today is Monday, October 24th. My name is Charles, and this is the Pirate Traders live stream where we talk about the ES and the NQ and the two-way auction process. All right, well, let's start off today with a very simple feeling of what I think the market's going to do. I would describe myself this morning as cautiously bullish. And I'm going to walk you through why I feel that way. First and foremost, yesterday's trade, Friday's trade, was extremely bullish in the way that it presented itself, the way that it passed through all the resistance that we had up here, and then ended the day with a spike up at the end of the day. That spike is a sign that there is still momentum in the market. There is still more buying to come. The overnight then traded over the weekend in the upper end of the range, and as of now we are about to open with a gap up. That gap is another sign that we still have momentum in the market. So those two things in combination, the spike up at the end of the day on Friday and the gap up this morning, are a sign of bullish momentum in the market. Okay, so that's the first thing I'm paying attention to. Also, it looks like, we couldn't really see it prior to this, but now looking at this area from last week, it kind of looks like a big balancing area. So this could very easily be a breakout of that balance, which is also bullish. But here's where the catch comes in. This move that we made yesterday was done on top of just an absolute insane amount of weakness. Pretty much every low they made was weak. So that's where the contradiction comes in, right? The spike is bullish. The gap up is bullish. The general breakout feeling of the move on Friday was bullish, but we left a lot of weakness behind. Also, if it was a breakout of a balance area, that is bullish as well. But then, of course, we have that fear if we look above and fail and start to pull back in, that could trigger a move towards the opposite end of balance. So that's why I describe myself as bullish, but cautiously so. If we start to pull back down into yesterday's range, things could get very bearish very quick. So what I'm looking for this morning, first thing, is for the market to try to fill the gap. That is to try to pull down to yesterday's high at 37.69. If it can find support there and then turn around and start to head higher, that is a gap and go, which is bullish. If that happens, I'll be looking for the market to continue higher. Also, if the market is unable to pull down to yesterday's high, so if it tries to pull down to Friday's high and it can't quite get there and it finds support above it and starts to head higher, that is also a gap and go, which is very, very bullish. But if the market pulls back down and it fills the gap and it does not find support at yesterday's high, the first target is testing the base of the spike up, looking for support there at 37.55. Okay, we got some single prints that need backfilling, so it would make sense if the market doesn't quite have the steam first thing this morning for a gap and go, it might find support there at the base of that spike at 37.55. But if that breaks, then it starts to get extremely bearish, right? Because then you have the look above and fail, and then you also have all the weakness that needs to be repaired below. So we start to monitor for continuation. No support at 55. We look to repair 48. Is that enough to turn the market around? If not, we repair 41. Is that enough? And so on and so forth until one of these lows is finally enough to bring in the buyers to head back up. If none of these weak references are enough, we look for support at the volume POC from yesterday. So essentially, gap fill, do we get it? If we get support, continuation higher. Gap fill, we get it, no support. Head down and look for support at the base of the spike. If we don't get it, monitor for continuation lower from there. Okay. So the market is giving us a good chance to get into a trade very early this morning, which could have a lot of potential. I also just wanted to, the market is open and we have a gap up. So first order of business, can they fill the gap? Can they get down to yesterday's high at 37.69? We got some potential support here at 3777, but with the gap, it shouldn't have too much of an effect. There you go, no effect at all. All right, that's about half the gap filled. And we tested the halfback from the overnight, finding some support there. So now if they can get above the opening price, which they're at right now, and stay above there, if they can turn that into support, that would be bullish as a gap and go. But right now, there's still pretty good odds they're going to try to fill it. All right, so it looks like they're back at the gap once again. We're looking for support at 69. I don't pick them, guys. I don't pick these numbers. All right, the market generated information. All right, we have new buyers. This is bullish. They're holding that gap. So can they pass back through the opening price again? All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have ourselves a gap and go. That is bullish. So the first target to the upside is the repair of the week reference at 87. There it is, repaired. So now we are looking to turn the opening price into support right here around 37.80 for continuation to the upside. It's a gap and go. All right, so I would describe this as short covering. We still haven't really given the market a chance to pull back and make good, solid support. And it's kind of one of those tricky situations where you're looking for the market to come back in. We haven't tested the opening price yet. We haven't tested the halfback, which now also is a low volume node. But as long as the momentum keeps going, you know, that firecracker effect, the more and more shorts that cover, the more and more shorts that cover. So they can keep pumping it. But at some point here, they need to pull back and test the support and see if there's new buyers. And new buyers at the high. It's bullish. They just keep on pumping. RK, I think the dip was a test of the support considering how low the overnight was. Yes, sir. I didn't see it at the time, but now it's crystal clear. That dip was a back test of this support. One last chance to pull it down. Couldn't do it. Ooh. It also looks like on the daily there's kind of a larger bottoming out pattern happening here. Obviously, this is nothing for us to deal with today, but a breakout of this could lead to further upside continuation. For now, let's just stay focused on this little balance area, the little mini one from last week. One step at a time. All right, so here we go. We're testing that opening price. If it's a gap and go, they should be able to find buyers in here. If not, that was all just short covering. Okay, so they came back down. They backfilled the low volume node. They found support around the opening price. Can they keep those ticks above the zero line? PMI in 4. I guess you can't count down in minutes. That's testing the support again. We do not have the ticks. Dun 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 dun. All right, back below the opening price increases the odds. We need to test that gap fill. We did not bring in enough buyers the first time for continuation. So we got to put the market on discount and give the buyers at yesterday's high a chance. Looking for a gap fill to 69. Scooball, this pullback was pretty big if it was a gap and go. Yeah, I mean, it could still be a gap and go, but I think they need to actually test the gap first. That must be the PMI coming out. Yo. The bots like whatever they just read. RK 30-point wipeout, short slaughter right through the stops. Yes, sir. Beautifully done. Just gorgeous work by the market. All right, the momentum is there. Gap and go plus PMI information. We have new buyers. All right. Well, of course, we have to let the market cool off here from those bots absorbing the data from the PMI. But once they do, if we have support here, I'm looking for continuation higher to head up and test that overnight high at 38.14. So can they keep the ticks above the zero line? Can they hold the support? And then, of course, once we get to the overnight high, do we get new buyers up there looking to take the market higher? All right, so the first support did not hold. We're testing halfback at 37.90. Can that hold? Excuse me. All right, support is holding. They got the ticks back above the zero line. That's bullish. Halfback failing a support. Quite a game of tug of war here. Who's it going to be? Chino. Fuck. Okay, thanks for the heads up. You know what it's going to be, right? It's going to be China invading Taiwan. Calling it right now. Mark, your pre-100 likes banner should be more offensive. Oh, you mean to get people to participate? Yeah. Like, only sissies are scared to push the like button. Tom, I have a walk the plank one. It never works. No one listens. Hey, we made it to 100 likes. The sissy thing worked. Jeez, we might be onto something. All right. Well, obviously, it goes without saying I'm bullish. We got a gap and go, and we're finding support. We got the ticks a pumping, so I'm looking for us to go test that overnight high and see if we have buyers up there. JMO, I've tried that too. I've been there, guys. I've done all of these before. I've got push it for luck to help you win. I've got push it for walking the plank. I've got just please push it. I've tried it all, man. It don't work. Sid, that gap did not get filled completely. Yes, sir. When the gap tries to fill and it doesn't fully fill, that is what we call a gap and go. It is a sign that there's so much momentum in the opposite direction, right? If the gap fill was down, there's so much momentum up. We didn't even need to fill the gap. That's bullish, that we're going to keep going up. Ederson, can I talk about the Q? Absolutely. Let's take a look at the Q. Okay, so the NQ not quite as bullish as the ES here. They did not open with a gap. They opened inside yesterday's range. They were inside yesterday's spike, which was bullish, but not as bullish as a gap. They pulled back down. They broke below the base of that spike. So that, again, not bullish. Not quite bearish, but it's just that's not a bullish thing to see. So that is less bullish as well. And it looks like you're only now starting to build up some support above yesterday's high. So I would describe the NQ as more, it's bullish, but it's more neutral than the ES. To really convince me, they got to hold this as support, push up higher, come back down, and then turn this into support up here. then I will look for continuation from there. It's also worth noting on the overnight, they went up. There was a previous gap in here that we left behind, and they went up and perfectly filled that gap in the overnight. Yeah, from here, from the 5th, the gap down, they literally went right up to that overnight, that gap fill in the overnight. So that, we don't really worry about weak references in the overnight, but if I was going to, that would be weak, increasing the odds that the regular trading hours need to go up there and test it. I would say for the Q, I would remain bullish as long as we're above 11,322, which was the base of that spike from Friday. If you start to pull back below that spike again, that's bearish, that they need to pull back down and at least test that overnight low. But as long as they continue to build up support up here above the base of that spike, I stay bullish. All right, so now support is starting to become resistance here on the ES. That's a little bit bearish to see. Less bullish, you could say. Pete Petrus, could you tell me if the cumulative delta is similar to the tick? I don't know. I think so. I think it's basically the same thing, right? I've never used that. I always just use the tick. But I believe it is. I think it's functionally about the same. Sid, what are your thoughts on the quality of the A period high? I don't think it matters because it was created with that that flush from the news coming out. So I don't really think it matters, but it's not a good high. Taper-wise, you know. But right now I'm focused on one thing and one thing only, the momentum, right? I'm worried about the buyers at the lows. That's what I'm paying attention to. Do we keep bringing in buyers? Can we keep popping these ticks back above the zero line? As long as we can, we remain bullish. And as long as we remain above yesterday's high. So that's my main focus. I'm not worried about this right now. I'm worried about down here. Are there buyers stepping in down here? All right, well, this is the buyer's chance. Hold it here, or they're heading down for that gap fill. Hold. Hold. Nope. All right, getting the gap fill. So like I said, if we fill the, well, we just filled the gap. So if we don't bring in support here, I'll be back to neutral for us to test the base of the spike, 37.55. There's plenty of opportunity for buyers to step in down here, if they don't step in right now, to step in down here and take us back up. And it's if the base of this spike breaks that I'll look to start to head lower, and that will get me bearish. But I remain bullish if we get support here, neutral until we test the base of that spike. All right, so now does previous support become resistance? This area that was just holding for us a second ago around 76. Do the sellers start to pile on there? If it's a gap and go, we should be able to pass right back through. It's resistance. Man, these buyers are working so hard. If they don't get something for it soon, they're going to give up. All right, I'm back to neutral. It does not look like we have the buyers for a gap and go. So I'm now looking to pull back down in. Look for support around 37.63 and then 37.55. Charles, why aren't you just outright bearish? Shouldn't you just be outright bearish? We're going to pull back down into yesterday's range. Yes, I should. This is bearish. This is a sign we don't have the bullish momentum. But many a time, I've seen that as long as we can find support inside the previous spike, they can turn it right back around and head on up. So I won't really be looking to short the market until that spike breaks. But if one wanted to get bearish this morning, that would be the first step. The lack of support at yesterday's high. Scooball says NQ is bearish as a look above and fail. Balance area in play for me. Yeah, well, yeah, their spike broke. Oh, yeah, you got it, dude. That's a balance area. I'd call it that right there. So that would increase the odds that they want to head down and test the 11,111 level as a look above and fail. Peter, why do you do such a disservice, yourself? You still keep flipping your bias 7 times so far. I flipped my bias once so far. I don't know what you're talking about 7 times. I was bullish for a gap and go until we didn't find support at yesterday's high. Now I'm neutral, waiting to see. Do the bulls step in or do the bears take over? I've had one bias flip. I think the problem that you guys have is you cannot differentiate between thinking in probabilities, right? Like the way I think, the way I do what I do, the reason I can make money every single day in the market is because I do something that most of you are incapable of doing, which is something called thinking in probabilities. What that means is I never believe for sure anything is going to happen. I remain open to any possibility at any moment. It's impossible to be open to every possibility at every moment and not constantly see contradicting information. There's going to be things even when I'm bullish that are bearish. So a great example was like earlier this morning, we came up, we tried to fill the gap, couldn't fill it, started to head higher. That's a reason to get bullish. That got me bullish. Then we pushed all the way up to here and we started to get failure. We started to turn this into resistance. So at that moment, I wasn't trying to go long the market up there. Of course not, because it needed a pullback. We had all this weakness. We had all this thin volume, but I still remain bullish, right? Because big picture, it still is a gap and go. It still has the momentum. Value is higher. The ticks kept getting pushed above the zero line. So sure, I might not be bullish anymore like I'm ready to go long up here, but I still remain bullish in terms of, I think, bigger picture, the market is going higher today. And so I want to be going long rather than going short. So when you hear me say something like, ooh, that's a little bullish, or that's a little bearish, or this is that, or this is that, it doesn't mean big picture my bias has changed. It just means I'm taking in information that contradicts my opinion, and I'm sharing that information with you so that you can have it as an additional resource. That's all. To really make money in these markets, you have got to be able to change your bias over and over and over again, because that means you're paying attention. That means the information is changing and you're changing with it. I mean, that's just the nature of it. I don't know what else to tell you. Peter, whatever you say is correct. However, in order to profit from the market, you need to think in probabilities is not sufficient. Yeah, you're right. That's step one. Thinking in probabilities just helps you to understand what the market is doing. Knowing how to enter trades, right? Knowing like how to risk money and how to make consistent profits, that's a whole separate thing. That's an entirely separate idea. But you can't do that. You can't make any money if you don't know whether you should be going long or short. So first you have to develop a bias on what you think the market is doing. And to do that properly, you must be open to anything happening at any moment. But as far as like how you take trades and you either make money or don't make money off of them, so far today there's been one trade. Buying yesterday's high for the gap and go, and your stop would have been below the base of the spike, or it could have been a really tight stop. If your stop was below the base of the spike, you're still long the market. If your stop was tight, you got stopped out and you're watching for more information. Like, that's it. Trading and reading the market are two different skill sets. So what I'm talking about here is reading the market. Thomas. Story of my life. All right, we're going to consider this B period low weak, both because of the amount of volume. Generally, if you have less than 100 contracts, it's a sign the market wants to do some more business, and it was all buyers. So that's going to tell us that the market probably needs to do a little more business down here. All right, so now we're testing the base of these single prints as support. This was the spike up from Friday. So that spike is a sign that in the last hour of the day, there were new buyers that wanted to go long. So the idea of finding support here now is whoever those buyers are, they may be waiting to get back in, right? They may have been chomping at the bits for the market to become on discount so they could buy on sale. So there's a chance they buy in, they step in here and they create some support. And then we see, can we get back above yesterday's high? If not, if we can't get back above yesterday's high, and then this the base of this spike breaks, we start monitoring for continuation lower from there. And it gets bearish. Very, very bearish. One Punch Panda, hi Charles. Today's range is similar to early October balance area. Is that a relevant reference? Yeah. I think what we're dealing with here is like, this is such a mess now. We have like, I just see it as like one giant balance area at this point. Because it was like, this was a balance area. Then we broke lower, retraced straight back through. Then this was a balance area, broke through. Then this became a balance area. Then this became a balance area. Then this became a balance area. It's like, Jesus, man, what the heck is happening in here? So I kind of just see this as one larger balance area. But you are absolutely right to be looking at those previous highs and seeing that that's where we ran out of steam and noticing that as something interesting. Just as Scooball seeing this as a look above and fail, of the balance area is being interesting as well. But we just got balance inside a balance inside a balance. All right, I'm bearish. That's the break of the spike. We do not have the buyers here. So now we are looking to start repairing the weak references we left behind yesterday. And just one at a time, as we repair them, we do what's called monitoring for continuation. So the market comes up here, gets some resistance. It comes down, it repairs the first one. Is that enough to turn around and start heading higher? If not, we look to repair the next one. Is that enough? And so on and so forth, until finally one of them is enough to get a real bounce. If we continue to push through each one and there's no support, the next support is going to be around the volume point of control from yesterday. So now we are looking for resistance. So NQ is testing some support right here at about 11,215 right now. If that breaks, the next major support is down around 11,125. Another important nuance to consider, that there is an extremely high probability that we will test either the overnight high or the overnight low. Almost every single trading day, we test one or the other. And so if we pushed up and tried to test the overnight high, and we could not test the overnight high, it increases the odds that we need to go test the overnight low, just on the probability that we almost always test one or the other. So that's a lot of bearish things starting to stack up here. No gap and go. No support at the base of the spike. A look above and fail. A lot of weak references in need of repair. And a higher probability to test the overnight low. Donald. Bulls, come on. Sorry, Donald. The Bulls, they put in a good fight this morning. They really did. But there was not enough of them to keep the momentum going. So we're going to have to put the market on sale to bring some more bulls in. All right, so with the printing of the C period, we left behind some single prints from the B. That slightly increases the odds. The market will need to push back up and backfill those single prints. We will then look for resistance at the base of those single prints, 37.71, for continuation to the downside. If the C period low breaks below the B period low, the market is one time framing lower, and we'll look for continuation as long as the market continues to one time frame. The only thing that could get me bullish here today would be getting back up above this node around 37.76 up here, and then finding support up there, getting new buyers at that higher price. Other than that, I see this as a look above and fail, and I think we need to start repairing some of this weakness below. So I am pretty bearish as of now. With that, I bid you all farewell, wish you the best, and look forward to seeing you here tomorrow morning. Members of the brigade, drop the sails, weigh the anchors, hoist the things that need hoisting. Let's just go to the private stream. All right, so there's those single prints backfilled. Do we get sellers right here? We are looking for resistance. All right, anyway, on to the other one. See you in a sec.